But before that, I go to my presentation and present what the Swedish Committee contribute into the education sector in Afghanistan. Just a little bit reflect on this MEC study. You know that one is public education delivery in Afghanistan through public school or the Ministry of Education run schools. And then there are another community-based model of delivering education where majority of the NGOs are delivering those services on a community level called community-based education. Community-based education was not the primary focus of MEC study. However, it did not completely miss it. There are elements and sections of comparing the education delivered through community-based education model, and then there were some recommendations that there is room for the public education delivery to learn from the community-based education delivery. And one of the reasons that they had reflected upon was the stronger involvement of communities in the education of their children through community-based education delivery model. When this report was delivered, we contacted in Swedish Committee in Kabul because we also were entrusted to have an independent look more broadly to the community-based education delivery, and we contacted MEC. We were requesting them to look at the same level. It also relates to the questions of some of the participants to look into the implementation level as well, to take it a little bit down to the ground. But then MEC's response was that at the moment, that is not the priority for MEC to look into. But it is still on our agenda, and Norwegian Afghanistan Committee and SCA has discussed this. And the response that we got was in April 2018, that it is not currently a priority for MEC, since we are looking, after this, we are looking to the Ministry of Public Health, we are looking to the other ministries. There were other reform-related priorities. But this is on our agenda, and we will take it up again. But as an overall, due to the based on that narrow focus, the MEC report has mentioned that there is quite a lot to be learned from the community-based education delivery, where many NGOs, including Swedish Committee for Afghanistan, is involved in. Now, coming back to SCA education program. How does our education program look like? We are focusing on improved access to education and quality improvement. These are the two areas, of course, with certain other gap filling and complementing approaches, testing new ideas and new ways and methods of working. In access, we currently are supporting 2,635 classes of community-based education across 13 provinces of Afghanistan. And the focus is on rural Afghanistan, the areas where children do not have access to education at all, particularly girls, because of scarcity of girls' schools in those areas. And close to 80,000 children are studying in these community-based classes supported by Swedish Committee, out of whom at around 58% are girls. While the national percentage of girls enrollment in schools stand at around 40%. these 80,000 children supported by ACA includes 4,300 nomad children, and also children with disabilities who are mainstreamed in either community-based classes or other nearby public schools. They are undergoing the mainstreaming or including them into schools. There are two stages of that. One is that there are children with special needs, like the children who cannot hear, the children who cannot see, with those kind of severe disabilities. And then the other, we have children with physical disabilities. The children with physical disabilities, they are directly mainstreamed, included in the schools, but at the same time we are also supporting the school administration and teachers on inclusive education and on how to take care of. And for the other children, there is a period of preparatory education period before that they are mainstreamed to schools. It depends on the children. It varies from 1 to 3 years. Once those children are prepared in those preparatory education centers, then they are mainstreamed in either community-based schools or the nearby government. So altogether 2,800 students are there. And then we have, we are supporting coaching classes. And coaching classes are for girls. The girls who dropped out of school due to various reasons. And then they are either dropped out in grade 9, 8, 11, but they have not completed the education cycle. Then this is a kind of an accelerated education model agreed with the Ministry of Education with a twofold aim. One is to help those girls re-enroll into the education, and second is to address the scarcity of female teachers in rural Afghanistan. Because these girls, when they graduate from grade 12, then they are re-employed into the community-based education in those remote rural areas. Improving quality of education, we have huge teacher training component where the teachers, annually some 2,000 teachers are offered trainings in subject methodology and subject knowledge. Ustad Najiba can help me. She was education project manager for some years. Subject knowledge, teaching competencies, the duration varies from 1 week to 2 months. And also inclusive and special. As I said, that we are preparing, contributing to the capacity of the receiving schools for children with disabilities. And also we have teacher education master program, contributing more on systems development on national level. And there Swedish Committee for Afghanistan is working very closely with the teacher education department. And Farhanaz Farah has fortunately been rehooked into Swedish Committee, and she will be leading this teacher education master program from mid-January. And here and here we are in institutional by cooperation of a university in India, that is Tata Institute of Social Sciences, that has been contracted for delivering that master program to the teachers of provincial teacher training colleges to offer them masters in teacher education. Because and the rationale for that was that over the past many years, there has been training teachers. And then, do we have the required capacity to train the teachers? That was the kind of a provoking question. And the result was that we also need to invest on the training capacity to train the teachers. We are also providing the support of Swedish Committee to those 80,000 children. That is a complete support package. Teacher salaries payment, textbooks provision, stationery provision to the students, teacher training support to the teachers employed in community-based schools, mainstreaming children, ensuring that no child is left behind. If that is our inclusive education, our position on inclusive education is not only defined to ensure the inclusion of children with disabilities, but rather girls, minorities, and nomadic children, and also in general those disadvantaged, to ensure that they are included and no one is left behind. Returnees, and that returnees is also one of the priority target groups of Swedish Committee. And also contributing to the quality through establishing resource centers into the hub schools. And hub schools are the schools in which the students of the community-based schools are registered. And then those hub schools need capacity support, and we are providing that capacity support through establishing resource centers with libraries that can not only be helpful for that particular school, but then the students and teachers of the surrounding community-based education also benefit from that. And these are also used as training venues. There has been a shift in teacher training. Before, the teachers, men and women, were brought to the provincial centers, but then since some years, as of 2014, now the teacher training has been decentralized to the district and village centers. And also annually we are constructing 8 to 10 schools depending on funding. And we also started with a new project with funding by postcode lottery, menstrual hygiene management, as this menstruation was considered something that contributed to this students' absenteeism in the classes, and also in certain cases to the dropouts. These were and then this menstrual hygiene management to break those taboos and stigmas associated around that. And it has been it started on a pilot basis, and the studies and internal monitoring indicates that this has contributed to improved participation of girls in schools, and also change in attitudes on communities level tour. And now as of by 2019, that pilot project comes to an end, and we will incorporate this as one of the components, and will take it forward as part of education program. And institutional capacity development support to local education authorities through through exposure visits, joint monitoring, and also offering training support to their staff. Civil society, we are mainly working with school management shura, school management committees. There are altogether some more than 500 school management committees that they are attached to these community-based schools, and we are offering organizational capacity development support on how they can grow as community-based organizations on local level to increasingly engage and take responsibilities in education. And also advocacy and influencing policies. One theme that we are particularly engaged in is to advocate with other like-minded organizations to make the school textbooks gender sensitive, as they are not. And this has been, we will talk, I believe, on that in the afternoon session. I'll come to that. And also nomadic education policy, and we were also quite heavily engaged, Swedish Committee, in developing the National Education Strategic Plan. And we are also sitting on the Human Resources Development Board at the Ministry of Education, together with Save the Children and Aga Khan on HRDB. The challenges, of course, insecurity. The deteriorating, constantly deteriorating security situation. And that has affected the education delivery, not only by Swedish Committee, but by all actors, including the government. And in 2018, there are various types of closures that are happening on the field level. Some closures end up in phase out. Despite community engagement, community negotiations, community drive for reopening those schools, then no agreements are secured on local level among the communities and the armed opposition groups. Then after some time, the sad decision is that those phase out happens. But that is very rare. In 2018, in the previous years, we had other examples as well. But in 2018, it was only 4 CB classes, locations that were closed, phased out. And 114 girls students were affected because of that closure. And the other closures are a month closure, 2, 3, and then majority of them are reopened by the community mediation. Like one of the examples that we had was from Ghazni province. In Ghazni, Moqor, and Qarabagh districts, the schools were closure was ordered by armed opposition groups. But then from April, from beginning of April to 8 May, those 242 CB classes remained closed. But then the communities actively engaged in negotiations with the armed opposition groups. Also, there were examples that the communities went and met Taliban leadership in Quetta, and then finally that resulted in reopening this. The issue mainly was the issue there mainly was that the teacher salaries must not be transferred through their bank accounts. The teacher recruitment must be done when we give clearance to the teachers. There were those sorts of issues, and also certain curriculum-related recommendations. But by the end of the day, they backed up from all those conditions. In 2018, altogether 9,000 students. Sadly, majority of whom are girls. 7,000 out of them are girls. They have been affected. When I say affected, it includes 1 week closure, it includes 2 weeks closure, and it includes a longer closure of 2 or 3 months. But when I say that 9,000 students are affected, it does not mean that they do not study. Those are 114 girls who do not have, who lost that opportunity of getting educated. And also cultural barriers and family restrictions. These are kind of unavailability of qualified female teachers in rural Afghanistan that remains. But there is also one very good positive development. Ustad Najiba is here. Like in 2014, 13, 12, the actors were actively looking for a 9th grade graduate or 10, 11 or 12 to employ them and then in parallel work on upgrading their capacities while teaching. But last year, since 2 years, the teacher positions, even for female teachers, they are being advertised, and then the candidates are applying in their screen. So it means the pool availability that is increasing, particularly on district center and provincial levels, while before it was an issue on district centers and provincial levels, but at least now that pool is increasing and changes are there. Poverty and lack of job market and the target areas drop out of girls due to distance to school and unavailability of needed facilities inside the school buildings. One other challenge that we particularly, or our colleagues on implementation level, that the demand to education is quite, they are knocking on our doors and requesting for more schools and classes to be established, while when we look to the resources, we are not in a position to respond to all those demands and needs coming through the communities. Internal displacement of families and returning children from Pakistan. And there we also have examples where the schools close because of internal displacement due to conflict. The families are moving, the children are moving, and then in that particular village or place, there are no students for the. These are some photos. Girls, students, and those are the material, as I said, that our support package includes textbooks distribution, stationaries, and this is nomadic education, studying in under a tent. And the nomadic education, there are mobile classes, and there is arrangement between Swedish Committee regional management offices. Like during summer, the nomadic families from Nangarhar, they are moving to Wardak, and then in winter they are moving back. So for these classes or mobile classes moving with those moving nomadic families. During one season, it is the Jalalabad Regional Management Office that they take over the follow-up supervision and support, and during summer it is Wardak Regional Management Office.
Teachers also move?
Yes. Yes, and this is a class from northeast. This is from Takhar somewhere. Children of community-based education. And in community-based education, the communities are providing the learning space for the children to study in. This is teacher training, SCA master trainer, and why can't I see well the photos there? Can you see it fine?
Yeah,
okay.
no problem.
Probably I'm in an angle. And then this is a class of preparatory education for children with disabilities. These are the children going to school. Tent can be seen there. This is also a community-based education class. This is a school that has school building, and we are constructing school buildings to the community-based education schools when they are formally recognized by the Ministry of Education. Then those community-based, because community-based classes are started as classes, and then a number of classes form in one location. When the children progress to grade 3, 4, 5, 6, then those classes, due to active lobbying by the communities, particularly school management committees, those schools are recognized by the Ministry of Education, and then that is the time where we start to construct the school buildings. These are the school and resource center, generously supported by our donor Ericsson Family Foundation in Yakaolang of Bamyan. So the construction this year, it was in plan to construct one resource center and the school, and now we can see that the construction. So a number of activities are yet to be completed, and these are quite recent photos. It is not only snowing in Stockholm, it also started in Yakaolang of Bamyan. And these are quite recent photos. So the remaining work, which is painting, which is finishing work, that will take place when the weather conditions improve after March 2019. And as I said, that the community-based education learning space is provided by the communities. You can see that this is the signboard of a community-based school, and inside there the girls are studying in very basic learning setting. And this is that menstrual hygiene management project, where awareness related to menstruation, and there is also this is the stationery package, the school textbooks that are being printed by Swedish Committee and then delivered to the community-based classes. And this is Swedish Committee for Afghanistan warehouse at the Kabul Management Office, when the procured stationery and printed textbooks are distributed from that warehouse to the provinces and regional management offices. Yes, this is.
Thank you. I think we have some questions. The lunch hasn't arrived yet. No, so we can take it easy, I think. So, yeah, you.
Yes, you were talking about the quality of education. I just wonder how is the differences between the private school and the public school, because I have heard there is many private school in Kabul.
Yes, I mean, to talk from evidence base, I might not be able to provide a concrete answer to that one, to reference it to a comparative study to track the students' learning achievements in public education. But there are perceptions on a perception level because of perceived better quality in the private schooling. The number of private schools are also increasing on cities level, where families, particularly well-to-do families, they prefer to send their children to those private schools. But to see on a learning achievement level, I am personally not so sure if the private schools are offering better education than the public schools, particularly on cities level, because majority of the teachers that are employed in private schools, they are non-trained teachers, but the only factor is that they are comparatively better paid than the public schools. Maybe if Faranaz or Najibajan can.
You want to have?
Yeah. So you are not against the private school. I mean, having it's not good. You are not against the private school. I mean, private school is the problem. But you are not against that?
No.
Is there any discussion about sort of public or private education in Afghanistan? Is this a controversial issue?
No.
No?
But the private schools are constantly, the number has been increasing from 2002 to now.
Okay, Vadi.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khalid, for your presentation, also for your wonderful work that you're doing in Afghanistan. No doubt that security is a bigger challenge nowadays, and according to the recent report from CIPA, almost half of the country is controlled by Taliban and other militant groups. During my time, when I used to work for MRRD and also for other national and international organizations in Afghanistan, our focus was more on those areas that are safe, and our projects and everything, and I think it's the same with the SCA. And then we also leave the other big part, which is exposed to war, and there are a lot of children and women, girls, and boys that we leave. So, same like since April, the schools have been closed in Ghazni and other areas. Is there any way or strategy to overcome the security challenge and reach out to those children in war-affected areas?
That's a very relevant question. Our presence, the Swedish Committee presence, is very rural. And we are present in districts that are under complete control of armed opposition group. We are present in districts where that is partially under government control and partially under armed opposition groups. And we are also present in districts where they are under control of government. So our presence is not only limited to the areas that they are fully controlled by the government, and our focus priority, because the community-based education typically takes place in areas where children do not have access to education. There is no any other school available for the children to go to schools. And then that closer coordination and working together closely with the communities, that has provided us, and also our longer term presence in Afghanistan, continued presence in Afghanistan, we are enjoying a fairly high level of acceptance because of the neutrality and impartiality that we are as an organization, that is part of our organizational identity. And then those people knows us, that and also the involvement of the communities in their own development, that is also contributing to the ownership, that they own what is being done there on the communities level. And we have seen that there are closures. Only in 2018, in a very rare case, it results in permanent closure. All the others, it means that the communities are acting and they are actively working. Yes, there are issues that they are happening here and there, but we also are enjoying high level of acceptance, and that's why that facilitates our presence in rural Afghanistan.
I have 7 people who wanted to ask questions, so we'll see how many we can take.
Yes, thank you for your information and your facts. I just wanted to mention my friend's question about the insecurity, but I may just want more details about the government's work in Afghanistan. What does the government do to make better so the situation just with insecurity? And then you mentioned about that there are no competent female teachers. And again, what does the government do here? And yes, so yes, these questions.
Okay, so what government does to improve security, and then the number of female teachers.
Yes.
What does government does to
Yes.
improve the situation?
I will start from the government effort, and I will. I cannot respond, obviously, on behalf of the government. But what I am aware of is that Engineer Faranaz also referred to this year and next year has been declared as years of support to education. One initiative among that is to recruit more teachers, some 30,000 or whatever, I don't exactly remember the number. And out of this number, vast majority of them will be female teachers, to be half of it, while the current percentage stands at below 30. 20%. But the priority is that to employ more female teachers with hardship kind of allowances, higher incentives will be paid. So those are the kind of steps that are being taken by the Ministry of Education.
Excuse me, does it make a difference for students if the teacher is male or female?
It depends. It depends where. In rural Afghanistan, from grade 1 to 3. From grade 1 to 3, it does not make any difference if the teacher is a man or woman teaching in that class. But when the classes progress to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then the preference in rural Afghanistan is that the girls are taught by female teachers and boys are taught by male teachers. In certain areas where female teachers are not available, then of course male teachers, but old age male teachers.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, this is security issues that obviously have to be overcome. I know there's an organization in Myanmar where I was the ambassador for a while for 10 million children and the right to education. And it's a Swedish company working with this. It's called EU Education, and what they do is providing tablets like iPads or such that is run on solar power. And you buy one, and it's you can use it for the whole family, for all children. It doesn't matter where you are. If you are on the run, you can still have the education, and teachers are online. So this is one option. I also know SIDA has a program since 2016 that is called education. What was it? ECWA.
Is there any? You have a question?
Yeah, but my question is not about this security. It's about other things. It's actually about corruption. So, for example, in Myanmar, which I have a profound knowledge of, lots of the teachers are actually forcing the students to pay them in order to be able to do an examination or to get good grades. I don't know about Afghanistan. What I do know is it's also a bit corrupted, so I guess this system is also made over there. How do the Swedish Committee for Afghanistan ensure that this is not happening? I know in Sweden we are, for example, working with how do you say?
Okay, I think we got the question.
Yeah.
So please.
Yes, I mean, for the teachers to force students or to demand from students to pay them, at least we in Swedish Committee have not, our internal monitoring has not revealed that there are demands by the teachers. And Ustad Najiba, since she was education project manager, she can respond to this if this has been a problem on the regional management offices levels.
Yes, it was interesting for me that this question came because it has never was a discussion in our office, because we never heard anything of this kind that teachers were asking. Unlike teachers are really involved in the school's affair. For example, sometimes if communities are very poor and they cannot, according to the agreement with the community, the place for education, the classroom, is it provided by the communities. And this is our agreement when we go to establish a CV class there. Teachers are pretty much involved since teachers are from the communities, And they are preparing the place, not only providing education, but also they are pretty much involved in the school's affair, providing the class for a safe environment for the children. No, they are very supportive, and these things we have never came across. And also our monitoring is strong, so our field monitors, field supervisors, they are very closely engaged in all affairs, starting from the teaching, learning process, examinations, and all these things. So we have not heard such a thing there. And we are happy that so we don't have it.
Very good. We have several questions, but I give the chance to Najib, who hasn't had the chance here.
Yes. Thank you for your speech. It was a very collective and good words that we heard from you. The question that I have is about the coaching classes and the coaching program. I read about the girl named Nazira. She has a disability, which was in the CSA program, education program. And is there more classes like that or programs like that that are fast tracking out to the labor market, if you say so? Because people that does have the basic education needs to come out to the to the public society and work as soon as possible. Do we have fast-tracking program classes that can provide people that have basic education to maybe get some profession and go out and work with that?
That usually is, as Engineer Farana's presentation, it was technical and vocational education component that is taken care of that aspect. But with the coaching classes, the primary objective is to provide the education opportunity for the girls who have dropped out of school due to various reasons. And when they graduate from these coaching classes after grade 12, we have data that some of these girls prefer to be employed as teachers in that locality. Some of them proceed to go and enroll into the university. Some of them end up in other professions. But the objective of the coaching classes is to provide the education opportunity to the girls who, due to various reasons, dropped out. And also it contributes to addressing the shortage of female teachers in rural areas.
Thank you. What do you say, Inayat? Do we take 5 minutes more before the lunch, or is that right?
More questions?
There are more questions, so but
I had a couple.
How many of our schools have school libraries? Because I mean, if we don't have school libraries, there are school books and the Quran to read. So you need something to use your knowledge for. And also, first time I met you, we were colleagues in the Kabul office, and you worked at the education department. Could you please elaborate on the different environment we have today regarding education as what you encountered when you began working with education processing at the Kabul management office? Would be very interesting to see your perspective.
If I reflect back from the 2003 when I joined Swedish Committee education program, there our engagement was more in delivering on behalf of the government. We were running number of schools, more than 400 schools, and then later on we handed them over to the government as the government was in place, and they had to take that responsibility, and based on agreement that was handed over. And then we went for reorienting our education program, starting in 2005. And this community-based education that I was referring to, this idea primarily came from Swedish Committee, that right now is a kind of a national program on implemented by various actors. Right now, I mean, in general terms, in terms of quality of learning, in terms of teachers' quality, in terms of, despite all these problems that were presented here, despite all the substantial improvements have been made. A student of today in classroom achieves more comparatively than a student that was sitting in class in 2005. There are definitely improvements in students' learning achievements, in the quality of teaching and learning material, and the quality of teachers themselves, and availability of teachers in rural Afghanistan. There are a lot of improvements on various levels despite all these challenges that the education sector is facing. And one thing that is very important is the high demand to education, mentality shift, attitude shift. People are coming and knocking on the doors of the service providers. Education is the priority. People demand it, people want it, but it is rather the resources that cannot respond to that higher demand. And that to me is one of the biggest comparative changes that I see in rural Afghanistan.